we were just talking about your father taking you to the Crimea when you were young. And my father visited the Crimea during the Second World War as a member of the British staff who was taken to the Yalta conference for the great meeting between Roosevelt, Churchill, and Joseph Stalin. And my father had many tales to tell about this. But he said particularly there was an enormous miracle which happened to him on the way to the conference. There were 2 plane loads of British officials, and they were flying in the DC-3 Dakota planes, I think, and they flew via Malta. And at Malta, Churchill said, he wanted to discuss the Persian question, as we called it in those days, Persia rather than Iran. And since my father was the Iranian expert and had been in Iran for a couple of years with many, he requested my father to come into his plane for the flight from Malta to Crimea, to Yalta. Churchill's plane arrived, but the second plane that my father had been in was lost. Nobody knew what had happened, whether it had crashed or some German night fighter had found it, or what happened. Half the British officials arrived in Yalta. These are the exigencies, the dangers of war. Now, when they arrived, they were put into a big villa, probably a small palace.
I know this place.
But there was no running water at the time because of the wartime and the problems and what presumably the Germans had done when they had moved in and the damage that had been caused. So there was nothing for it except to go and collect water in a bucket from the garden. And they were washing their teeth outside and rinsing their mouths into the roadsteads. And my father said that some lady came past and said, "Это очень некультурно." And of course, this was the first phrase that he taught me in Russian. "Это очень некультурно." Sorry, excuse my bad accent. But he then said that when they started the conference, Churchill was the first person to come in, and Churchill had a single bodyguard who was a great marksman. He could shoot anything with total accuracy at a distance of 20-30 yards. And he was continuously on the lookout and there to draw and protect and shoot if necessary. And next came in Roosevelt. Roosevelt had 2 FBI agents with him who were also considerable marksmen. But when Joseph Stalin came in, he was completely surrounded by generals. You couldn't see Stalin at all. You couldn't possibly have shot him without shooting one of the generals first. That was the first thing that my father thought was so extraordinary, was the different dispositions of the various leaders. And then he related an incident which may or may not have got into the history books. I'm not familiar with the detailed history. But they were talking about what to do with Germany at the end of the war. And Stalin's first statement was, when we've won the war, we will take the 50,000 leading Germans and we will shoot them. This was his solution. Just get rid of everyone. Roosevelt, who didn't know Stalin's character or barriers, said, "Oh, surely, only 49,000. And Churchill, who was very well informed, said, over my dead body. But this shows you difference in characters and dispositions and attitudes to life. Now, I really can't remember very much else about my father's stories about Yalta, but these are two or three that came down to me.